Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, Wrestle Revolver and House of Glory. What a show this was. So of all the shows this weekend, there's so many of them. I've reviewed a lot, still got a lot to watch. JCW versus the World. Toshio Joy Pro Wrestling. And then the ones tonight. Spring Break 8, Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, SmackDown, GCW for the Culture. Tomorrow we got Effie's Big Gay Brunch, NXT Stand and Deliver, NXT Stand and Deliver, GCW versus Toshio Joe Pro, WrestleMania 40 Night 1 tomorrow night, and then the Clusterfuck tomorrow night as well. So we still have a lot of shows, and on Sunday we got Mania, we got Stark Joshi Trailblazer, we got Rev Pro London live in London 84 if we get to it. Everything should be watched and reviewed by the start of Monday Night Raw. We know how the Monday Night Raw is always the biggest Monday Night Raw of the year. That's kind of, everything kind of goes up to that, and that's kind of like that season premiere, and then everything goes down. We build up for Mania next year, so it's Mania to Mania kind of deal. We know big matches on WrestleMania this year, so we'll see what happens there. But this is House of Glory versus Wrestling Revolver. First match was for the House of Glory Championship versus the Revolver Championship. So House of Glory champion Mike Santana taking on Revolver champion Shelley. You would thought that these two were trying to kill one another at one point. They were just fighting all over the place. They ended up fighting at ringside, and just diving at one another, and just the heads. It was like a true blood feud. A freaking moonsault into a brainbuster. Shelley was really kind of one of the dives that Mike Santana did. You could see he was kind of hit his shoulder, so he's kind of favoring his shoulder a little bit. Shelley started kind of picking at limbs like that because of that. And this match ended kind of wonky. The referee was a Revolver referee to start, and because he gets knocked out by a super kick from Shelley. It was an accidental. So it was one of those deals where Mike Santana moved, he kicked him kind of deal. Well, a House of Glory ref comes in. The House of Glory ref ended up counting to 1, 2, 3. The Revolver ref, who was the legal ref of the match, says no. He disqualified Shelley for the super kick. So technically, Mike Santana won by disqualification because the Revolver DQ. Yeah, it got wonky there at the end. It's like, seriously, we do that kind of. I mean, do both people pass out? Do no one can come back from the 10 count kind of. But to do it that way, I thought it was kind of wonky. I ended up giving it 3 3/4 star. It was a hell of a match to start. So yeah, we'll see where that goes down the line if we have a rematch or so. Because we've seen wrestlers hold titles in both companies before. Alright, next up we have the House of Glory tag titles on the line in a fatal 4-way. We have the main event, Jay Lyon, Midas Blanc, going up against the Rascalz, Trey, Miguel, and Zachary Wentz, against the Grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Liverpool's #1, Zack Gibson, and then Red, Alex Colon, Rickey Shane Page, just the deathmatch tag team of House of Glory, basically. This thing got off to a huge start. The Rascalz did a double dive onto GYV. We had Jay Lyon do the Ring of Fire. Basically, he dives through the ring and onto RSP on the outside. We had just wrestlers flying everywhere in this one. We had Rickey Page taking it to everyone. It became just a cluster. You got 4 teams of 2, so you got 8 people and they're just kind of going everywhere. So it was almost, I won't say too much, but it became a cluster. But I mean, it was good. It ended up being super good because Main Event was able to retain their titles. They pinned Trey Miguel, I believe it was. And I gave the match a 3 3/4 star. Now, after the match, Charles Mason comes out with a chair and attacks Jay Lyon. Charles Mason has got a few screws loose. That's what I describe it. He lost the House of Glory Crown Jewel title to Carlos Ramirez back in December. Since then, he's methodically trying to take out Main Event. He took out Jay Lyon with the chair. He took out a bunch of refs with chairs. He ended up ripping off the mask of Jay Lyon. And for those of you who know, any wrestler that wears a mask, typically you don't mess with the mask. That's in the Lucha Libre community. That is kind of you have your own. The mask is your identity, and your true identity is not known. And so when you do have a hair versus mask kind of match, those are when you lose that mask, you basically lose the identity of who held it. But the fact that this wasn't that, this was just him ripping it off to rip it off. We did see his face for a split second. I'm pretty sure you can pause it and see it. I don't care to do that kind of stuff. That's whatever. But Jay Lyon, the mask means the world to him. Luckily, Midas Black came in and was able to make sure he didn't get hurt worse. But Charles Mason going to have some hell to pay for this one. So still your tag team champions, the Main Event, Jay Lyon and Midas Black. Next up is the House of Glory Crown Jewel Championship. Carlos Ramirez versus one called Manders. This was literally a hoss fight. Carlos Ramirez obviously beating Charles Mason, back in December for the Crown Jewel title. Charles Mason took a little bit of the soul of Charles Mason because he's changed since he won the title. In a couple of the shows we've watched, he's been a little bit more violent, a little bit more like Charles Mason. And Manders is one of those big old country boys that you're not going to mess with. And this was a fight. And that's what these two literally did, was fight each other. And Carlos Ramirez was able to finally get the best of one called Manders. 3.5 star match. And he retains his House of Glory Crown Jewel Championship. Next up, 2 wrestlers who spent the most of the weekend in matches. Speedball Mike Bailey versus Masha Slamovich. Both of them had high-profile matches on 4-4, which was yesterday. Speedball had 5 matches. On 4-3, Speedball had 4 matches. Masha had 2 matches on 4-4. This is the 4th match all-time between Speedball and Masha. Masha has got his number 2-1 so far beyond this match. This match started out hot for Mike Bailey. He literally started going after Masha from the start. Started with a freaking stepping sidekick. Sorry, missile dropkick to start out with. And then he did multiple stepping sidekicks. It's not a super kick. He corrected that on social media with somebody. He did not hit a super kick. He did a stepping sidekick. He did a Boston Crab on the floor of Masha. He did multiple, like I said, stepping sidekicks, rear naked chokes. He did everything in his playbook to go after Masha. But you know what? Masha Slamovich is one of the baddest wrestlers on the planet. And she took a 2-0 Speedball. This match was absolutely amazing. One of the matches of the week so far. 4-star match. Masha Slamovich beating once again beating Speedball Mike Bailey in a 4-star match. Next up, we had a Philly street fight. Steve Maclin, Charles Mason. Yep, This was a true and tried street fight. What I mean by that, they fought out of the arena to the middle of the street. Literally, they were fighting against a parked car, a white SUV. Then they were fighting in the street. There's literally a blue minivan blocking traffic. And of course, Maclin throws Mason into the blue minivan. There was talk of maybe the cops were outside waiting for him to come out to charge him with property damage. Because they both took out cars. It was like, holy snap. I mean, they did a back body. He did a freaking, write it down. Oh, when he first came out, he came out holding the J-line mask. That was pretty cool. He did a back body drop. Steve Maclin did on the street. It's like, that's not soft. It's concrete and asphalt. And then they fight their way back in. You ended up having chairs getting involved. You had Charles Mason putting the bag over the head of Steve Maclin. He didn't get it quite locked in. Steve Maclin's like this and rips it so he can breathe and gets out of it. And it's pretty brutal. With Steve Maclin actually beating Charles Mason. I mean, they're giving it 3.5 stars. Charles Mason actually put on social media later, my WrestleMania weekend is done. I'm going home to my daughter. Which I thought was kind of cool. And then next up, we had a Pro Wrestling Revolver Remix title in a scramble match. We had Remix champion Gringo Loco taking on Ace Austin. And Aigle, Blanc. Casey Navarro, who came out with holding 3 titles and had to pass them off to a title holder guy. Myron Reed, who was a late ad. Nolo, Kitano, and Raheem Royal. Boy, oh boy, this was intriguing. Because you had a lot of high flyers here. You had Blanco doing the heat-seeking missile out of the outside. He did this crazy. I've never seen it. It was kind of like a pop-up. So he goes and kind of jumps up onto Gringo, and Gringo would grab into the pop-up powerbomb. He put his feet right here and did a freaking like a Hurricane Rana. I'm like, what in the world just happened? You can even name some of these moves they were doing. When the French guy did the German suplex, the announcers lost it because Aigle Blanc is French. He did a German suplex. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of big spots after big spot with these guys. Gringo Loco ended up doing some cool looking driver thing to retain his title there. I ended up giving it 3 3/4 star. And then the main event. We had the TNA X Division title on the line. It wasn't supposed to be on the line. Mustafa Ali, the TNA X Division champion, going up against the former TNA X Division champion and the father of the X Division, Amazing Red. Red said you should put the title on the line. Mustafa Ali finally gave in and said, okay, the title's on the line. So we made an X Division title match, past versus present. They played that the entire thing. The fact that Ali is the current champion, Amazing Red is the former champion, and just kind of fed off of that. Mustafa Ali on this world tour he's doing, he's trying to come off like a face during the world tour, but he's more face in Amazing Red, because Amazing Red actually owned House of Glory, him and Brian XL. Ali hit got hit with the Code Red by Amazing Red. Red ends up kind of low blowing right afterwards, so it looked like he was going to get the victory there. Ali was able to kick out. Ali's able to hit the 450 for the 1, 2, 3. 3 3/4 star match. TNA X Division title retained by champion Mustafa Ali. Would love to see this match ran back in the TNA ring. But that is Revolver versus House of Glory from WrestleMania week. Still got lots of shows to watch. Still got lots of content for the weekend. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader, sports center content.